Steelers Nation, how is it going? Thank you kindly for tuning back to the channel for another edition of the Steeler Culture Podcast, where we break down Pittsburgh Steelers football. It is officially Jets Week, guys. Steelers football will be returning come Sunday. This Sunday at MetLife Stadium, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the road again to start off the regular season to face the New York Jets, and is literally a quarterback swap. Shout out to Michael Yoder.
Hopefully the Steelers don't suck come week one.
No, we definitely don't want to see that.
Especially when it comes to the offense.
No, that is the topic of today's video, will be the offense. About a month ago, we discussed how stacked the defense is.
Yes.
And we all still trust the defense to a large extent. For the most part, we believe the defense will indeed do their job, but they're definitely going to need a helping hand from the offense. For years now, it feels like forever at this point, the offense hasn't held up their end of the stick. The defense has been getting injured and
Constantly on the field and just not able to hold their end of the bargain because the offense hasn't been able to do just that.
No.
For years now.
No, and there's been very little progression in the past several years, including a coordinator change from 2023 to 2024, where Arthur Smith will return for his second season as Steelers offensive coordinator, and there will be a ton of new fresh faces for the offense. This past offseason, they have lost two of their starting quarterbacks last year, in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We will see Justin Fields week one versus the Jets. They have lost their leading rusher the past 4 years in Najee Harris. They have lost their leading receiver in George Pickens. They still have their tight ends. They even added tight end Jonnu Smith. They have brought in DK Metcalf. They still have a similar wide receiver room compared to last year, just a for sure bona fide number one, and a lot of uncertainty there at the wide receiver 2 position. But finally, we will see, hopefully, the emergence of Roman Wilson. We'll see what he's capable of in the first couple months of the regular season. We all know the offensive line is essentially the same as it was last year, as long as it fully stays healthy. So we got a couple new fresh faces, but we also got, a little bit of the same. Very, very similar coaching staff. There's not been really any changes whatsoever to the coaching staff on the offensive side of the football.
No.
We got the same coordinator. We got the same O-line coach. We got the same receiving coach, who Zach Cassani is a very good receiver coach. He has a good track record. He tried holding Pickens accountable last year, and, that's not really going to do a lot for Pickens, is it? That's why he's over there in Dallas, catching balls from DK Metcalf. Jaylen Warren just got an extension, which is very well deserved for Jaylen Warren. He'll be pairing up with Caleb Johnson for at least the next 3 years. Jaylen Warren did get a new 3-year contract, a 2-year extension this morning from the Pittsburgh Steelers, according to his agents. Jaylen Warren's an incredible story. Undrafted free agent from 2022, and on day one, you just knew he was going to be a spark for the offense, man. From day one in training camp, and what we saw in preseason, he was already one of the better pass protecting running backs in the league. You add in his versatility, you add in his receiving game, and the burst he has coming out of that line, coming out of the snap. Jaylen Warren's a terrific running back, and he is finally going to be getting his first bit of starting action. He's been with the team for 3 years now and hasn't had a single start, and that's props to Najee not missing a single game. Jaylen Warren, not only is he finally getting some of his starting capabilities here, he has now gotten a new 2-year extension where he'll be getting over $7 million paid this season and $12 million guaranteed altogether in the next 2 seasons.
What the pay raise?
A well-deserved pay raise. Jaylen Warren, the offense overall the past several years hasn't had a lot to be proud of. Najee to a certain extent. Jaylen Warren, absolutely. Calvin Austin last year was a good spark, a good playmaker. George Pickens to an extent. But Jaylen Warren's been one of the more well-deserved guys to get an extension. I'm glad they got it done before week one.
Yeah, deserving of the contract extension, come in day one and snatch that running back 2 role, that position, away from Benny Snell. And from that point, Warren just did what he needed to do, and he just showcased what he was capable of on that football field as a runner, as a blocker at that, and as well as a receiving threat at the same time. And Warren, believe it or not, since 2006, when his cousin, that's Willie, got a 4-year contract extension, Jaylen Warren is the first running back since then to get a extension with the Steelers.
In over 20 years, Jaylen Warren is the only running back to get an extension from the team. That is unbelievable, considering, we had Fast Willie, who was the last running back up until, like Rob stated, Jaylen Warren to get an extension. We had Mendenhall, we had Bell, we had Connor, we had Najee, we had all these other guys in between. But out of all of them, Jaylen Warren is the first running back in 20 years to get an extension, and that's very well deserved. And that's not a knock on anyone else. The Steelers tried with Bell. James Conner I love what he's doing in Arizona, but they couldn't trust his injuries. Najee Harris, they declined his fifth-year option, so that was a writing on the wall. They drafted Caleb Johnson. You already knew that Warren was going to stick around because they want to keep that tandem together, and why not?
They should.
And we're going to get the very first year of that, a good part of that this upcoming season, which is it's a win in my book. Because the run game is something the Steelers are still going to have to rely on. Seeing that Arthur Smith is returning as OC, and that's his bread and butter. He runs a wide gap zone type of running style, which fits a guy like Jaylen Warren. He's very successful in a lot of the ways that Arthur Smith likes to scheme up the running attack, where that's up the middle between the tackles, where that's outside with the jet sweeps that he just adores a lot, but even the wide zone runs, that's where a guy like Warren is very capable. Same thing with a guy like Caleb Johnson. He's going to fill in that Najee role initially. Warren will be the starter. They'll split reps, but Warren will officially be the starter until Caleb Johnson gets up to speed, and then he's going to eventually hopefully burst on and maybe be the running back for the future for the Steelers. That's what I'm looking at Caleb Johnson to be. Get him more outside, get him more in that outside zone run. I think Caleb Johnson can really showcase a lot of what he's capable of. A lot of what he did over at Iowa.
Yeah, big time. It's going to take him a little bit to get used to the NFL level and the NFL speed. He even admitted himself, he's got to work harder. He's just got to work faster. He's got to get used to things. We saw glimpses of that in his first bit of action in preseason, and I would anticipate Johnson's role to be very limited because he's still got to get used to things. But I would hope that later down the year, Johnson gets used to the NFL speed, the NFL level, and they just frequently use Johnson and Warren at that as the running back duo to go.
Absolutely.
Because that's the plan, of course, with the Warren extension and Johnson here for 4 years with his rookie contract. That's the duo to go with, and that's what we wanted.
And that's going to be occurring this year, especially with a 41-year-old starting quarterback.
Who's the oldest quarterback in the NFL today.
His name, number 8.
Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers. Former Green Bay Packer, longtime Green Bay Packer, former New York Jet, just the past 2 years ago. Now he's a Pittsburgh Steeler in what could be his final season of his illustrious first ballot Hall of Fame career. I'm still trying to get used to the idea of Aaron Rodgers being a Steeler. Come week 1 versus the Jets, it'll not only be Aaron Rodgers' first game as a Steeler, it'll also be DK Metcalf's first game as a Steeler. Those two, on paper, could be a very fun duo. They could be a great tandem for this offense, man. That's the electricity that we've been looking for this offense for a while. We got a little glimpse of, Russ and Pickens and Fields and Pickens last year. It just wasn't consistent enough, whether that was due to Pickens and his on and off field issues and him not putting in much effort, or the inconsistent quarterback play, or just the fact that the offensive line overall suffered through a ton of injuries last year and they just can't be relied on. But out of everything this year, an aging quarterback, an uncertain wide receiver too, the same coaching staff all over again this upcoming season. The biggest factor for this offense will 110% without a doubt be the offensive line. If the offensive line doesn't gel together, if the offensive line doesn't get things going, this offense is in trouble. We all know what a bad offensive line can do to an offense. We have seen it many, many times before. Every single year since, I think, 2020, the O-line hasn't really been fantastic.
A lot of bad offensive linemen and a lot of bad offensive line play. Just not good.
No. But I feel like this year we finally got a lot of pieces there. We got a lot of potential, a ton of high capital spent on the line. Broderick Jones finally at left. He's saying he's a lot more comfortable there, which is, obvious. Wow, imagine putting someone in his natural spot and being more comfortable and playing some good football. What a concept, right? It took us 4 years to finally do that. We got Sayamalu still at left guard. He's the oldest guy there. He's the real veteran. He's the glue. Zach Frazier had a great first year at center. I think we all agree that Frazier is going to be the next great center. Mason McCormick had a very good rookie season. Troy Futano, he's going to be a stud right tackle if he stays healthy. We got a lot of capital invested there. We got a lot of youth. 4 guys on that line are on rookie contracts. So we finally have the effort. We finally have put in the effort to build that line. We have finally have found the guys that could literally be the cornerstones for that position. But everything has to fall in play. These guys got to play up to the capital that the Steelers spent. And of course, the coaching has to teach these guys the ways of playing some good football. No one still trusts Arthur or Pat Meyer. You could say what you want about Arthur Smith and his coaching scheme and how he's going to coach the offense, but Pat Meyer might be one of the more important offensive coaches for the Steelers because he's the guy teaching the O-line. He's been teaching the O-line for longer than we would like to, and he's coming back. And he's got to be teaching these guys, what to do, teaching these guys, helping them with their growth and their progression, with their technique, and everything that they got to do at the offensive line position.
And for years,
can he step up out of everyone?
And for years, we just had to be patient about the offensive line with them just adding new faces and new players. That basically started with Broderick Jones when we traded up for him in Omar Khan's first year doing the draft.
Yeah,
back in 2022, right? 2023, my fault. Yeah, 2023 for Broderick. Then came along Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick. They signed Sayamalu in free agency. The same year Broderick was drafted.
Yep.
And Troy Fautanu just last draft, 2024. It's a patient thing, and it still will be, because come week one, they're not just going to be a complete lockdown, goon squad offensive line like we all want them to be or hope to be, because they're still so young. The line is young. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some patience, but all of them have potential without a doubt. And you got Sayamalu as the veteran. He's a veteran. He's been around many, many years throughout the NFL. He's been a part of a Super Bowl freaking team, a couple of them actually, with the Eagles. So he knows, exactly what he's got to do on the field and how to teach these young guys, teach these young offensive linemen. Broderick finally over at left. We were pounding the table, bro. Put him at left. Some people labeled him a bust, and I can understand why. Broderick exactly didn't play great at right.
No.
But you're putting a raw left tackle out of Georgia over on the right side. It was just never going to pan out. It wasn't. Even for a first-round pick, it wasn't going to pan out. Now that he's over at left, he feels comfortable, and he looked very solid in preseason. He looked like the Broderick that we all want to see. I can only hope it translates into the regular season.
And same thing with Troy Fautanu. He played left tackle reps all of his Washington career. But because he's so athletic and he can fluidly move to the right side, which, it's out of position, but considering that he protected the non-blind side of Michael Penix, he's going to do the same thing for a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So it's more of a smooth transition than what Broderick was forced to do the last 2 years.
Or just when Broderick coming out of the college level at Georgia, Broderick was still a little tad raw.
Yeah, at least Fautanu was more natural.
He was talked about being a top 10 selection. He fell due to knee concerns. He fell to the 20th pick.
Yep.
Though he was projected a top 10 player throughout the entire draft process.
Yeah.
He was more prone. He was more ready. He was more of a day one starter than Broderick ever was.
Absolutely. But like you said, patience. Because the reality is Broderick's been away from left tackle for 2 whole seasons. That is a lot of important time for a young guy's progression wasted already.
And that falls on Pat Meyer.
That falls on Pat Meyer. That falls on Tomlin. That falls on coaching in general that allowed it.
But now you have the puzzle pieces right where they need to be, right where they fit.
Even Troy Fautanu, he was out essentially all his rookie season. He played only 1 game, week 2 versus the Broncos, and he was out all his rookie season. So he's still new to the right tackle position, and he's still trying to, prove that he can stay healthy and prove his first-round worth. There is going to have to be a little more patience. But, yes, the puzzles are finally in the right pieces. But can they gel together? Can they lock in when we need them the most?
That's where the execution is going to have to come into play, especially with the offensive line. They got to communicate on point. They got to give it 110%. They got to protect A-Rod. You're protecting the oldest starting quarterback in the NFL right now. Man, 41 years old, behind one of the youngest offensive lines in the entire NFL.
Literally.
Like, these young guys, these young studs, because they are studs, they got to protect this man. And they know that, like it's a lot. It's a lot of weight on their shoulders. The offense and how the offense performs, it really relies on the O-line giving Rodgers the time to do what he needs to do.
If you really break it down, you have 3 guys on that entire right side, Frazier, McCormick, and Fautanu, all part of last year's draft class. You got 3 guys alone on that line that are in their 2nd year. Broderick is in his 3rd year, his first real year finally at left. And you got Sayamalu, obviously. So I love the potential. I love the fact that Omar Khan and Andy Waddle have invested in the line. I love that Omar Khan even though Mason McCormick was a day 3 pick, he thought to himself, James Daniels and what's his name?
Nate Herbig.
Nate Herbig. They're in contract years. What if they don't come back? What if they don't resign? And guess what? Mason McCormick is now the starting right guard and reminds me a lot of DeCastro. He doesn't have the pedigree, professional pedigree DeCastro, and it's not just the number, it's just his swing ability, his pull ability. He's a bully there. Same thing with Frazier. We finally got a center that we can be proud of. We passed on the obvious, the top centers in the entire league, but I feel like we finally got the gem there in the tackles. Give them time. I do think that they can finally prove their worth, especially a guy like Fatano. Broderick is still a bit of a question mark for a lot of people, but a little more time for him is necessary. But if these guys can finally fit where they are supposed to be, and the Steelers keep them there and they can progress over time, and of course the entire O-line can stay healthy, maybe, just maybe, this offense can finally have a passing game. Because even though Aaron Rodgers is way past his prime, he is not the same quarterback he used to be. He is not an elite quarterback no more. His release is always there. His touch is still there. He is one of the smartest quarterbacks in NFL history. He can read a defense before the snap. He can find his targets. He knows how to get that yardage. He knows how to get up the field. He knows how to outsmart a defense before and after the snap. Those are the things that you can't take away from Aaron Rodgers, even at his age. You give him time to work. The O-line gives him time to work. Maybe the offense is something to be excited about. I'm not expecting a top 10 offense. I'm not expecting the best offense in the world. I'm not expecting 30 points a game. Because until they do that, I'm not going to expect it.
No.
I'm not going to get my hopes up way too much on the offense because it is still a massive uncertainty, especially since they still don't have a wide receiver too. Yeah, they got DK, which is a great add. Can he be an improvement over DK? Hopefully. Or over Pickens? Hopefully. Roman Wilson, I guess, is the wide receiver too. But he was hurt all last year, so he hasn't proved anything. He barely played. Can he prove his worth? Can he be like a Tyler Lockett-esque from what DK is used to back in his early Seattle days? Can he be maybe, I don't know, the Randall Cobb for Aaron Rodgers? Maybe not 2014 Randall Cobb, but, you know, a little reliability there. The speed, the size, the route running capabilities are very similar. That's something that Aaron Rodgers can very well get, used to. That's something he can recognize and have that feeling back for, that dependability in his receivers.
Yeah.
Of course, we have 4 tight ends. Well, 3 mainly that are going to see a lot of field time. You got Pat Freiermuth, who got an extension last year, who definitely should see more targets. He was healthy for all of last season, which was very good. That was a big question mark, was his health. He proved he can stay healthy. Give him more targets. A-Rod loves the tight ends. They traded for Jonnu Smith in that big Jalen Ramsey, Jonnu Smith for Minkah Fitzpatrick trade. Jonnu Smith is a great targeting tight end, a great receiving tight end. I'd argue he's a better targeting tight end than Pat Freiermuth. He's definitely more physical. He's got more yak ability. Could they view him as a wide receiver where they could motion him literally anywhere on the field? You want to put him outside. You want to put him in the slot. You want to put him at the tight end spot alongside the line. Jonnu Smith's got that versatility, and he's a phenomenal receiving tight end.
Plus, he's back with Arthur Smith.
Exactly.
Back from the Tennessee days and the Atlanta days. Now, for the 3rd time, they're paired together, this time in Pittsburgh. And I will say, if there's one person that knows how to use Smith, Jonnu, it is Arthur Smith. The guy's basically been with him his entire NFL run. Nobody knows Jonnu more than Arthur. I can only hope that Arthur will find a way to utilize him properly and use him better. But like I said, if there's one person that can do it, it should be Arthur. And I can only hope that does happen in Pittsburgh.
Especially since Jonnu's coming off a career and signed a new extension with the Steelers after they trade for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would hope Arthur Smith knows a thing or two about to get Jonnu Smith involved. Same thing with Pat Freiermuth. And we cannot forget Darnell Washington, who I think can be the tight end too any day of the week. But they view him more as a blocker. But seeing what we saw in preseason, I think, honestly, they should really incorporate him a lot in the red zone. Yeah, they're going to use a ton of, 12, 13 personnel all over the field, really, but especially around the goal line, the red zone formations, which they definitely should. One thing about Arthur Smith is his red zone offense. The Steelers' red zone offense in general hasn't been good, and it hasn't improved much since Arthur Smith joined. Last year, it was not good at all. The red zone offense was not good at all with Arthur Smith. And this is someone that utilizes his tight ends a lot in that area. Now, the tight end position from last year to this year is improved just based off of the emergence or the addition of Jonnu Smith. That gives him a whole nother weapon. That gives him a lot of familiarity that he already knows how to utilize around the league. He has found success with him, which is a good thing for this offense. And that could be a good thing for Aaron Rodgers, that he has more targets. Maybe they're going to rely on strength and numbers all over again with the offense, seeing that they have no one really at wide receiver 2 proven yet. They're just going to rely on strength and numbers. Warren is a great receiving back. So is Kenneth Gainwell. They could put him on the field and merge him out in the slot if they wanted to. You got DK. You got Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington. We got a ton of targets that could make up for the fact that we don't have a wide receiver 2. Now, we thought that last year, and we didn't really get to see that. But I guess you could say this offense is a little bit more improved than last year. Just a little. It's not by much. We don't know by how much it will be improved or if it will be improved at all. But one thing's for sure, it needs to improve.
Well, just based off name value, you would expect it. The Steelers added all these faces, all these new names, traded for some of these guys to have an improvement over last year. Change the quarterback, trade for a new wide receiver 1 while trading a headache away. Traded for a familiar tight end because of Arthur Smith and his relationship with him. You got younger at running back. You're still young at O-line, but the puzzle pieces are in the right place where they need to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would hope, and fingers crossed on this, I would hope that the offense, just based off name value, but based off the mission, what their mentality is going into this year, that, yeah, it is an improvement.
Yeah.
And everything from everybody, this goes for everybody. The execution needs to be on point. From the O-line to snapping the ball to A-Rod connecting to his targets, having that chemistry there, and building that communication with DK, with Roman, ideally as the number 2, just based off what we've seen and heard from Roman's usage, mostly outside reps, built that chemistry with A-Rod in training camp, was a primary target throughout preseason, no matter who the quarterback was. Roman saw a lot of action, and he was healthy. You also got Calvin Austin, who is an ideal wide receiver 3 that can be the number 2 if you need him to be, but he is a pure slot guy and a very good, reliable target at that. He showcased that last year in the tight ends. So, yes, you would have to think and hope that it is an improvement over last year, just based off the points alone, right? Because the Steelers last year, they scored 22.4 points per game, which was 16th in the NFL.
So not great, but not bottom of the barrel that we're used to.
Exactly. They scored 35 overall touchdowns last year. To break it down, that was 21 passing and 14 rushing. 35 overall touchdowns for the Steelers last year. But Chris Boswell, and this just goes to show that Boswell is a great kicker, like we all know, but it's also kind of sad at the same time, at least to me. Boswell made 41 field goals out of 44 attempts. We had more field goals made than touchdowns last year.
I don't know if
the majority of those points came from Boswell's leg.
I don't know. Is that normal? Is it normal for the kicker to have more field goals made than offensive touchdowns scored? I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's a normal thing.
So again, based off the additions that the Steelers did, based off the name value, and I love Boswell just as much as the next guy. Boswell is reliable. You need him to kick a field goal, man, he's got you. No doubt about it. But I would also like to see less of Chris Boswell and more touchdowns scored.
I think we all would.
Especially if you're looking to vie for a Super Bowl, if you're vying for a championship. You're not winning a Super Bowl based off Boswell going 6 for 6 all the time.
Yeah. No.
He can do it. He should not have to do it.
No, that's the thing. Yeah, we had 2 games last year where he went 6 for 6.
Great for Boz.
Great, yeah. Very, very reliable kicker, man. One of the best, if not the best kicker in the league, and should definitely be next in line for a contract extension. Warren got his. I know Hayward's getting all pissy about, wanting a pay raise. Boswell's next in line. I know he's got, 2 years left on his contract? I don't care. Pay him now.
But based off what Boswell did, what does that tell you about the offense finishing drives?
They can't finish drives, we know.
Not just finishing drives, but just time of possession overall.
Or that, or, protecting the football. Now, they don't turn the ball over a lot because, frankly, the offensive play calling is a little too safe, in my opinion. They don't challenge the middle of the field. They don't like to throw the ball as often as they should. They don't like to throw the ball deep as much as maybe they should. And that could be because, one, quarterback play, 2, the offensive line doesn't give the quarterback time. 3, receivers can't get open, and we don't have another receiver really to create separation.
That we know of as of now.
And, of course, play calling. So that's a multitude of things. So they don't turn the ball over a lot. But I will mention that at the end of last season, I noticed that the last time the offense didn't turn the ball over up until that Ravens playoff game was week 7 versus the Jets. They turned the ball over at least once in the last 10 regular season games.
Ball security, man. That's what's got to be at the top of the priority list, if anything.
Not just that, but like you stated, time of possession.
Because the Steelers' time of possession last year overall, they averaged about 30 minutes and 13 seconds of time of possession, which was 15th. Middle bar right there, middle of the road for the Steelers. But the last 3 games, and we know how the offense was, last 3 games, they averaged 24.36.
24 minutes, 36 seconds.
Which was 31st in the NFL in the last 3 games, just behind the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
And I believe that because we witnessed it. We watched it. It was poor. It was not good.
Well, it's just, the end of stretch by the Steelers tends to be the exact same every year. Can that change finally? Obviously, we hope so. Am I getting my hopes up on it? No, not until we actually see it. Like, yeah, the team has some potential this year. This team, there's a lot of people really getting their hopes up for this upcoming season. I ain't gonna lie. This season is going to be interesting one way or another. But can they be different towards the stretch? Can the offense overall be different? I hope so. We got a whole lot of new fresh faces. We got a new running back to pair with Warren. We got a new wide receiver 1. We got a new quarterback. The O-line, as long as they stay healthy, are finally put where they should be. You would hope that all these things can gel together and we can actually get an offense worth giving a damn.
An offense that can provide more consistent play, that can stay on the field more so than just 3 minutes. An offense that can take care of the ball a lot better, more consistently.
An offense that can help out the defense to keep them, 1, healthy, 2, off the field, and 3, keeping them from, giving up plays.
And an offense that can score touchdowns and finish drives without having to rely on your kicker all the time.
So that comes down to a multitude of things. One, and most importantly, is can the offensive line hold up? If without a good O-line this year, we will not have a good offense. And honestly, if we do have a good offensive line this year and the offense is still crap, it'll be interesting to see how that comes about. Could that be play calling? Could that be quarterback play? I don't know. Will we ever see any of that? To be determined. It's going to be a long season. But the O-line needs to hold up. The play calling needs to be there. Arthur Smith knows how to scheme a run game. It's his bread and butter. He uses his tight ends a lot. He's going to run a ton of 12 and 13 personnel. That's probably going to be the majority of the Steelers formation. You won't see a ton of 11 personnel. You won't see too much of 3 wide receivers out there. You're going to see a ton of tight end packages like we did last year. And frankly, the tight end position is improved from last year, so why the hell not? It's the one thing they're going to rely on. That in the run game, obviously.
Just less of the toss plays, please.
Less of the toss plays, and I don't know if Arthur Smith is capable of doing this. Can we scheme a passing game? Can he scheme a passing game? One thing I've noticed about Arthur Smith ever since being OC, he has never schemed a top 15 passing game ever. Ever. Ever.
There's a first time for everything. And with the addition and the Steelers, with the situation with A-Rod, they have him now. Even at his age, could Arthur Smith build something? A-Rod was there with his first visit with the Steelers for what? It was over 6 hours, it was reported.
Yeah.
And he had a down-to-earth, deep conversation with Arthur Smith, reportedly. So they have to have something they want to build together, something that, that they're going to connect with, that they're going to want to provide for the offense as far as passing the football goes. Maybe Arthur Smith can do it. Maybe A-Rod could be the guy that could help him lead the way. I'm not expecting it. I'm not getting my hopes up on it. But I mean...
But I will say this, Aaron Rodgers could be an upgrade over Russell Wilson in Fields this year. He is a smarter quarterback, and I feel like he would know how to get certain weapons involved. And maybe that could help us a lot in terms of finishing drives, staying on the field, and red zone efficiency, which our red zone efficiency has been terrible for years, and that's a lot to do with the coordinating, Arthur Smith included. So there are still some doubts regarding the entire O-line this year. I think we all, for the most part, trust the defense to do their part, but they're going to need a huge helping hand from the offense in a lot of areas. And frankly, for the past several years, the same mistakes have hurt the defense. Can we see an improvement in a lot of the offensive mistakes that we have unfortunately been able to see repeat? Hopefully. That is what they have been making all these moves for. They didn't make no coaching changes or along pretty much the entire coaching staff, but especially on the offense, which I find to be a huge mistake. If anything, they should have fixed the O-line coach. Pat Meyer has shown you nothing in helping the progression or the growth of a lot of the offensive linemen that they've brought in for years now. Kevin Dotson is a massive example of that. Put him out of position. He got traded to the Rams. He got paid, and he's a good guard now.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. They should have at least done that. They were never going to get rid of Arthur Smith. And if they do get rid of Arthur Smith, it's probably going to be due to his contract running out. And that's not going to be until 2026 because he's locked up for the next 2 seasons.
That's right.
So Arthur Smith, he's going to have to step up. The O-line is going to have to step up. Someone at wide receiver is going to have to step up. Otherwise, they're going to have to make a trade. Either way, I think they still got to make a trade. When and who that's for, I don't know, because I don't think anyone's available at the moment. So when will a trade happen? Probably not until the deadline. So that gives a guy like Roman Wilson 8-9 full weeks of so much opportunity for him. And we're all rooting for him. So we're hoping he can take advantage. Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. Again, I'm still trying to get used to the fact of that. We're going to have number 8 at quarterback again. I'm sure this one is going to be much better than the last one. There's no way you can't get worse than the last one, even at 41 years old. This is an important year for the offense, man. They got to help out in a lot of ways. They need to improve. And I'm praying we don't see the same mistakes all over again. Ultimately, that is my fear. This team overall, that's my fear, that we're going to get the same season all over again. We're going to get the same ending all over again. And most of that has to do with coaching. There's been no changes whatsoever for several years now. So can they change this time? Will this be different? Will they get better? Will we get a better result this time around?
We can only hope, man.
I'm not going to get my hopes up,
No.
but seeing what they've done all offseason, you would hope that that's the case. You would hope that that's their mission.
Yeah, the last thing I want to see from this team is the same end result that we've seen how many years straight, how many times straight when it comes to the wild card?
It's been a while.
The end result, I don't want to see that, but that is my fear, just like it's Dan's fear as well. I don't want to see it. I don't. You made all these moves, all these changes, roster-wise, to improve from last year, which is the ideal circumstance for every NFL team. If it goes bad, you got to improve in every way, every direction. They did it roster-wise. Let's see an improvement. You have to improve. You have to go out there and execute. You have to ball out. You have a mission. You have a goal.
Considering I feel like, especially in the locker room, one thing about the offense is they finally got guys that want to be there. They finally got guys that are of the mindset of improving themselves and being or trying to be great. Aaron Rodgers, the media gives him a bad rep, but ever since he signed, he's been a hell of a leader. There's been nothing but outgrowing things regarding what Aaron Rodgers has said about DK, especially a guy like Roman Wilson. Caleb Johnson, he's all about improving. He's all about fixing and working on his craft. So I expect that to be, something he's persistent about all season. Protecting the football, working in his pass protection, working on his receiving upside. I have no doubt that a guy like Caleb Johnson is going to improve. That's just the kind of guy that he is he's all about trying to outwork the next guy. That's just the vibe I get from him. That's the guy I want in the locker room. Same thing with like a Roman Wilson or even like a DK. So I think from a mindset aspect, the offense is in the right track. They're in the right mindset. Can they execute? Can they improve on the field? As we all know, we're going to need it this year. The Steelers have had one mission all offseason, and that's to set up this team to make a legitimate run for TJ, for Cam, for so many other guys along this roster that truly deserve it. Yeah, it's at the fact that they have brought in a lot of older guys on both sides of the ball, including Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, but they've done all this all offseason to make a run, to make a push, essentially going all in, depending on what your definition of all in is. The offense, man, they're going to need to step up big time. They're going to have to help out with the defense. They're going to have to help out themselves. They're going to have to help out this entire football team. If the offense doesn't improve, if the offense cracks under pressure, if we don't get any resemblance of something greater this season, then it seems like all of it was for nothing. And hopefully that's not the case.
So go out there and showcase, why you made these moves, why you brought in these players, these high notable recognized players. Go out there and showcase and tell the whole NFL world what your mission is and how much it means to you and why you want it so badly and what we're really about, what this team's about, what this logo's about. Instead of teams looking at the Steelers and just laughing at them now and thinking, oh, I know what you're going to do, and then stop them within 3 seconds.
Yeah, let's not be predictable. And Omar Khan did state at the scouting combine he wanted to add playmakers. Well, he did. Yeah, he traded away some playmakers. He really revamped the entire offense as a whole. Like, none of our starting 3 are on the team anymore from a year ago. So it's a whole fresh set. It's an entire fresh scenery for the offense. He wanted to add playmakers. He did. He traded a second rounder for DK and gave him one of the biggest contracts in franchise history. They waited patiently for Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers knew where he wanted to go. I don't know what took so long. I know he had some personal things, but all we know is that ever since he signed the contract, he's been all in on the Steelers. Like, his focus has been on the Steelers in this season, which is a good thing. They drafted Caleb Johnson. They have traded for another tight end. They have added playmakers. The one thing they wanted to do is get more explosive. One thing they wanted to do is fix up the offense, change the mindset, change the scenery, change the outlook. And they did. And I got to say, from an on-paper aspect, I think it is better. I do. Can it be better? Let's see it.
Maybe we'll see little glimpses of that come week 1 against the Jets, against A-Rod's former team, on the road at MetLife Stadium, against Aaron Glenn, and a new regime over for the Jets. Let's see what this team can go out there and do.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited for it. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but, maybe because I don't get my hopes up, they exceed expectations.
I've learned that as a Steelers fan.
Yeah.
I have.
It's going to be an interesting season. That's all I know, man. But that is our preview for the entire offense for this season. We did one regarding the defense about a month ago. We discussed the wide receiver position just last week, and they still need to add somebody. We don't know when that's going to be. It needs to be a trade, but who's realistically out there? So we're gonna get a lot of looks for Roman Wilson, I suppose. But now we discuss the offense. This season's going to be crazy, guys. It's going to be interesting. I'll be very curious to see how the season goes. I'm not getting my hopes up, but, maybe because I don't get my hopes up is when they actually start to surprise me a little bit. Can this team be capable of contending? Can this team be capable of making a playoff push? Can this team be capable of giving us our first playoff victory in how many years now? 7, 8 years?
Almost 10. It's been a long time. Let's end that drought.
Let's end that drought, man. The Steelers have done all this all offseason for that reason alone and further on. We got months until we finally get a full look at this team. Can't really judge it off of week 1, but that is when we're going to get our first little peek at what this team could truly be about this season. One thing I will be a little concerned about, and we'll discuss it in the Steelers versus Jets preview this upcoming week, man, is how immediate is the offense going to gel? Because Aaron Rodgers, DK, didn't see any time in preseason.
Oh, Jonnu Smith didn't play in preseason at all.
Jonnu Smith didn't see time in preseason. Aaron Rodgers and Roman Wilson didn't get no play time whatsoever in preseason. So how immediate is their communication going to be? How immediate are they going to gel? That's going to be a huge concern going to week 1. We'll discuss more of that when we discuss and preview the entire week 1 matchup between the Steelers and Jets later this week. So stay tuned for that, guys. Appreciate you all for tuning in. How are you guys feeling about the offense, man? How do you guys feel about the offense and everything they've done this entire offseason? Do you think they should add more? How are you feeling regarding everything from coaching to the line to the weapons to the quarterback? Let us know your guys' feelings down in the comments below. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Follow us on the socials. They are down in the overlay. The links to that are in the description box below, as well as the link to our Spotify. Listen to us on Spotify. If you would like to, we would greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll see you later this week for the Steelers versus Jets Week 1 preview, as it is officially Jets week and Steelers game day is upon us. The games count, the games matter, and hopefully this team is here to arrive and show us what they are truly capable of. I cannot wait. See you later this week. Here we go, Steelers.
And as always, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you later.
Peace!